As you might have guessed, today I'm going to talk to you about spirituality not being copy and paste. What I mean by that is that word spirituality can be likened to spiritual ability. That is to say, the ability of the Spirit of God come through you and move through you, speak itself through you. And this leads to inspiration. And inspiration means in spirit motion. See, so it's again being moved by the divine, being moved by God, being moved by the Spirit, not just copy and paste, not just sitting at the feet of another guru or copying and pasting quotes, reading books from cover to cover, getting lost in scriptures or arguing about the wording in scriptures, running around the planet looking for the perfect geographical location. Religion, the word religion, it comes from Latin, religare, which means to realign yourself or to bind fast, put together the two that were split before. So it's again, religion is about bringing together spirituality or spirit ability of binding with you and moving you, creating usually art, poetry, movement, spontaneous movement in dance. You know, the greatest artists and the greatest sports people always speak the same thing. They always talk about the same thing. When they're at their peak performance, when they are inspired in spirit motion, something else happens. They are not themselves. It takes over. The Spirit takes over. And they are able to do magical things. Create things that they would have never been able to do if they tried to think about it or something. But if you let go and you allow the intuition take over and you allow the forces in your body to take over spontaneously, something happens, something moves you, and you move you move spontaneously. There's no second guessing. All religions started this way, all of them. Whether we're talking about the three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, or we're talking about Buddhism or Hinduism, any religion you would like. For instance, in Judaism, the Old Testament, the whole text are written according to someone's experiences, someone's mystic experiences. So we've got prophets, the old prophets, like Moses climbing the mountain. He's climbing up to the center, to the most inward center, and there he finds the burning bush, the fire that doesn't consume the bush, you see. And it's out of this bush that God talks to Moses through the angel. And Moses comes down the mountain and he has the laws and the rules, instructions for living from the divine. If we talk about the New Testament, the story of Jesus, it's exactly the same. You know, Jesus went to John the Baptist. Baptized Jesus, that's where we get the word baptism. But Jesus didn't find what he was looking for with John the Baptist. He didn't find it in the greatest spiritual leader or guru of his time. He went past Baptist. He went to his own mystic experiences in the desert. Jesus spent 40 days, as the story goes, in the desert, and there he was tempted by the devil. 3 things that he had to pass, like the Buddha, 3 things he had to overcome. So Jesus' 3 things were turning stones into bread and bowing before Satan and challenging faith. So, they're all about materialism, bow before Satan, and Satan said, I'll give you all this. This is all going to be yours. You're going to be the greatest leader, and so on. And then he said, throw yourself off the cliff and God is going to lift you up, not going to hurt you. But these are the things that the ego is saying. That's what Satan really means, you know, over materializing things, living just for material things. You know, you're living extrovertly, not the introvertly, well, not being connected to the spirit. But Jesus was already contemplating so much, he was incubating for such a long time, that these things didn't move him. He wasn't interested in what was going on in society. He was already with one foot in the world of the spirit, in the world, as he calls it, in the world of the Father. We don't know what exactly Jesus' visions were, but we know that when he returned from the desert, from his incubation, that's when his proper religious or spiritual career began. That's when he began to teach. Yeah? And Jesus had two modes of teaching. He had the teaching for the masses, what we got really in for the general society, what we got really in the New Testament, his sayings and things and so on, which people try to remember, copy and paste. These are the scriptures. But the real teachings, the hidden teachings of Jesus, if you like, the ones that what he experienced, and he was trying to convey that to his closest disciples so that they too will be able to have such experiences as him, to realize to who they really are, who can be found in the Gnostic scriptures of Jesus. So in some of his sayings, such as, if you drink from my mouth, you shall become like me, and I become he. You see? This is Jesus not speaking as a man Jesus, but he's speaking as that God, as the Spirit, as the divine part in you and in everything else. And again, the kingdom of the Father is spread upon the earth, but men don't see it. It's everywhere. This is all divine. The whole earth is divine. Nature is divine. You are divine. The whole universe is divine. Lift the rock and you will find me there. Split a piece of wood and I'm there. You see? Again, everything is oneness. This is the oneness of things. Everything is filled, or this energy consciousness that supports the universe and enlivens all life, which is you as well. You are within it as well. You're connected to it. So all religion has started in this way. Someone went inward and then deeper inward, had their mystic experience, returned, either processed that experience or not, and then started teaching, sharing that with others. Mohammed had a very similar thing. From, you know, I'm talking about Mohammed, Islam, the start of Islam. Now, we've got many stories about Muhammad's life, but the most popular is that he was a camel train driver, or an owner of the camel train. And when he returned from his camel journeys across the desert, bringing goods from one place to the other in the Middle East, he used to have a little cave somewhere close to his home, and then he would retire into that cave and incubate. And he would incubate, and one day, bang, that's it. He had the experience of ascent to heaven. And he ascended to heaven on his mystic vehicle called the Burak. Yeah? And there he came to the throne of God, and he negotiated with God that instead of 50 times a day, people should turn only 5 times a day towards Mecca. And what's in Mecca? In Mecca you've got the Kaaba, the holy stone, the sacred stone. The stone that's the same thing as the philosopher's stone. The stone, the image of the stone, is much older than Islam. It is much older than paganism. Stone is thought of as eternal. That is to say, if I have a piece of stone, if I got a stone, and I place that stone here, in 1,000 years I'm going to come back and that stone is still in that same spot. You see? This this ability, this symbolism of the stone is that it has this eternal part to it. It's got this immortal part to it, which is your own immortal part, your own, which refers to your own divine part. And that's the meaning of the Kaaba. The Kaaba, the stone in the Kaaba, in some stories are actually saying that it was also a meteorite stone. So it's got an even more spiritual dimension to it, because it comes from the universe, comes from heaven to earth, you see? It is the messenger, it is the message that comes from heaven, from your own center, from the spirit, from your inner self, to you, to earth, to your ego. And you realize that that's inspiration. So that's why you turn to that center as many times as you can, really, before you get the intuitive, you don't need to be forcing this, it just happens. You live in that moment. That's what the many, especially the male gurus, are only talking about the moment, living the moment and living this and that, which is fine. But when you get further past the moment, you get into the archetypal, you get to the dimension of the collective unconscious. That's where you have the symbols like the stone and the tree and the burning bush, the mountain, the desert. Same story with the Buddha. The Buddhism nowadays is like Christianity. It's just, scriptures and copy and paste and remembering words and quotes and the story of Buddha, but it's not, doesn't have the living aspect to it. It's not still moving you to move to your own center like the Buddha. Sit under your own, find your own center, your own inner Bodhi tree. Sit there. This is the axis, the cosmic axis that connects the above and below. And have an experience like the Buddha, or like Christ, like Jesus had. So the Buddha sitting under the tree, he was like Jesus. He was looking amongst the gurus and the spiritual teachers, and he didn't find what he was looking for. See? So one day he's just sitting there, and he remembers what someone said, might have been his dad, his father, that the string should be in an instrument, in a guitar or something. The string shouldn't be too tight, because otherwise it doesn't have the melody, or too loose, but then it doesn't have the melody. It should be just right, the middle way. So this is the middle way that he's talking about, is, your left eye is the eye of thinking, your right eye is the eye of feeling, but the middle eye, the mediates between these two. So this is your outside, this is your inside, and this, the intuitive eye, the inner eye, mediates between the two opposites. This is Buddha's middle way. The middle way repeats itself in every culture, in every religion. You can trace it back to the Paleolithic time and Neolithic time, especially with the images of the goddess, for instance, when she's standing at the entrance of to a temple, and you've got the female figure, the goddess, and you've got on the left side one figure, and on the right side another figure. Or she's sitting between a sheep and a lion, for instance, or she's standing to entrance to the temple, and she might have some two opposites. That's the meaning of, for instance, of Wednesday, Odin's day. He's got one eye open, one closed, and one looking in, one looking out. The middle of the week, the balances between the two halves. So Buddha is sitting under this tree, and he's meditating and meditating and meditating, and one day God, the demon, Mara, comes along, and he tempts, I was going to say Jesus. This is the same thing as Jesus was tempted by the devil in the desert. This is Buddha being tempted by the demon Mara under the Bodhi tree. And so the demon tempts Buddha with three things. Tempts him with power, with lust, with sex, and with duty. So these were the three things that were really important to the Buddha. Power, that being being a prince that he was, he would have had lots of, he would have owned this and that, and then he had power, right? Last is sex. Buddha was very, from his stories that we have, he was very fond of women. He liked women. Obviously, he liked to have sex with them. And third is duty, and duty was very important to a prince. You know, your duty is to protect the people, not just sit here under the tree and meditate. But he was like Jesus. He wasn't moved by any of this. He was already with one foot in the realm of the spirit, and with this foot still in reality, in this reality. And there comes a moment when he manages to overcome the Mara. Mara challenges him and says, well, how come, who can vouch for you that you've got the right to sit here under the tree? And Buddha just takes his fingers, touches the earth, and the earth, the goddess earth, that is nature, the divine nature, the feminine, the divine feminine, vouched for him. You know, your own divinity, and it says, you know, he is my son, and I vouch for him. And that's in that moment, the ego, you know, of demon Mara went away. His middle eye opened, and he had his vision. And the vision was that he saw his life beyond lives. That is to say, his own divine part, his spirit part, the immortal part of himself. And he also saw the interconnectedness of all of existence. That is to say, his spark is part of the bigger flame, the bigger fire that connects, and it is everything. You see, he realized, like Jesus realized, that he is leaf and the vine. He is the part, the unique part of that oneness, but he's also the oneness. And that was his whole mission, his whole teaching after that. He tried to convey this lesson to people, but people don't understand. They still don't understand to this day. So we got copy and paste, you know, copy and paste spirituality in Christianity. We got copy and paste in Old Testament, in Judaism, for instance. We got copy and paste in Islam, and we got copy and paste in Buddhism and Hinduism as well. You know, to this day, people try to remember quotes and try to read the right books and prostrate themselves before this feet of this guru and that guru. And I hear these stories very often, and it saddens me because it's not that difficult. But what you need is the time to do it, to lock yourself away, to turn off your phone, to lock the front door, don't interact with anybody. Don't talk to anybody. Just, you know, sit there. I used to go to the local library, borrow 6-7 books. I liked fiction, something like Lord of the Rings. And I would sit there from the morning till night. It usually takes about 3 days to make contact with this unconscious, collective unconscious, with the spirit. And when you make the connection, you will know. It will come in your dreams. It will come in your dreams. But the most important part of this is you have to overcome the basic instincts. The 3 basic instincts. These are the 3 things that Jesus and Buddha had to overcome. The 3 temptations. So, you know, if we use I've used this example before, but I always use this example, is if we use the yoga, the chakra yoga with the rise of the Kundalini, the first 3 chakras, these are your basic instincts, survival instinct, animal instincts. Yeah, you've got your hoarding, you've got your sex, reproduction, and power. So you need that power to hold on to your little tribe so that it survives. But then comes the 4th one, and the 4th one is on the level of the heart. When this opens, you're no longer living only for your own survival. Something else happens. You start to look for things where you can be of service to the community. You live for something which was more selfless, you know. But there you still got 3 more levels. You've got the throat, you've got your inner eye, and you got the crown. So this is asceticism. This is turning all your energy inward. The throat chakra, the 5th, you see. When I'm not talking, I haven't been talking to anybody for days. So when I do these videos, sometimes my voice is funny. You know, sometimes I will have to clear my throat, my voice might sound weak and so on. But usually before I do a video, I will incubate in this way. so that I have connection to this inner dimension of the spirit, to the holy, through the center, through me being incubating. And then what I'm saying when I'm making the videos, I might plan, you know, I might plan for one thing. I've written a few bits and bobs that I wanted to talk about, but I will go off on a tangent like I am right now. And something else is going to come through, something maybe more important or less important. Do you know what I mean? So this is the incubation, where you incubate here. Well, how are we going for time? Okay. This is turning inward, all your energy turning inward. So you're not answering the phone, you're sleeping a lot more, you're dreaming a lot more, you're incubating, you know, until this opens. This is your inner temple. When you walk into here, you see it in your dreams, you're walking into a temple. And there will have lots, in the temple, you will have lots of these symbols, the collective symbols of the collective unconscious that refer to this image of the temple, which is your intuition. So there are spirals turning inward to the center. There will be a fountain, a tree, magic animal, that helpful animal. Dog is very often, you know, the nose that knows, that's intuition. The dog is able to follow a scent, an invisible scent. That's intuition to its source. So, but this is not the, you know, you might find the deity on old man, old woman, you know, an archetype of wizard or a witch, for instance, someone helpful that is there, or an archetype of a holy person, all dressed in white, and they seem very, very old, very, very holy to you, glowing with light. Maybe like the moon, but this isn't the whole. That's not the end. You still got the crown, and the crown is where you where you identified with this divinity. Here you are still kind of, you know, kneeling before the deity in the temple, but here you already identify as the deity. That and the whole thing is connected to the collective unconscious. So. I'm looking at my time because I've got about 25 minutes only recording time on this old phone. So we've got about 3 minutes left. So spirituality is not copy and paste. It's not sitting at the feet of another guru. It's not just reading Bible from cover to cover. It's not beating yourself over the head with scriptures or running around looking for the perfect geographical location. Spirituality is the spirit ability to move and live through you until you experience something. Yeah, it is ability to you move inward and deeper inward to that center until you have a revelation, and in that center, in that inner temple, you are being initiated to the mysteries. All religions, whichever one you want to talk about, started this way. But then came the priests, then came power, then came politicians and lords and kings and emperors, used religion for their own political means. And then you have institutions. So everything is institutionalized, and that becomes learning, or becomes just another institution. You have to remember, you have to subdue yourself to that. But religion and spirituality is not like this. It is poetry, it is art. You know, it is spontaneous movement. It is living from the center, you know, dancing from the center. Something happens, something moves you spontaneously. So I'll end this here. I wanted to talk more about art, referring to this. There's a lot to talk about art as an original religion of humanity. I might do a separate video on this. But I wanted to end with the words of Hafez, and the words go something like this. If you are not traveling on the road, how can you call yourself a guide? See? Spirituality is not about beating yourself over the head with scriptures. It's about living experience. Yeah? Spirituality is not second-hand. It is always fresh. Okay, thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.